I'm Chance with We Sell Broken Bow. Appreciate you tuning in. All right, y'all. Appreciate you tuning back in. This is Chance. This is the We Sell Broken Bow YouTube channel. We've been doing these videos for a little while now. I'm going to take you around on some errands that I'm running up here in town. Probably be popping in a few of these awesome cabins up here in Broken Bow and Hochatown, which is pretty much all that I sell, all that I deal in, what I specialize in up here. We've got our finger on the market, our pulse on the market. So come along, check things out. And I'll share with you some of my thoughts, some of my story about what got me up here, how things have been the past 5 or 6 years that I've been up here specializing in this broken bow market. So let's get to it. Summer 1. And so, so we're for sure in Hochatown now, no longer in Broken Bow. I could turn right here at this 259A, and a lot of people call this the Dam Road because it goes over the dam. Shout out to this new gym up here that certainly welcomes day guests, day passes, that sort of thing. Grit and Glow. Cool little gym. Wow, they're working on new electric lines here, getting ready to extend and widen the highway up here, which is awesome. That's been needing to be done for a little while. Passing the Hochatown Saloon here on the right. Plenty of boats to rent, Sea-Doos to rent, ATVs to rent, things for the kids. Hochatown Petting Zoo. If I'm real with you, I don't know, they might have a couple cool animals in there, but I'm like, take your kid to the Dallas Zoo and really go to a zoo. I hate to sound like a critic, but I feel like I've seen some squirrels and some like deer featured on their Facebook there, and I'm just like, y'all, like a deer and a squirrel do not belong in a petting zoo like that. That is the most native, most typical animal. I know I sound like a smartass or a critic, and I'm sorry, I really don't mean it that way, but nonetheless. So, but a pretty short period of time, I'll run towards the top end, north end of Hochatown up here where the cabins are and stuff. I'm gonna run by a few of these cabins that we have listed just to check them out, see that they're doing good, see that the landscaping's looking good, all of that. And more than anything, just wanted to chat with y'all, share with y'all a little bit about what's going on. I really didn't have a script or have an agenda. Really just wanted to show y'all a little bit about what's going on in preparation for the summer up here. Here's Papa's Tacos and tequila. Tequila, man. Got some good tequila there. That's about the only alcohol that I will drink periodically, very rarely. Really not a beer drinker. Not a, thought I saw a snake as a strip of a 18-wheeler tire or something. Here's Carson Creek. So you can take Carson Creek east down to access the lake and the state park. Some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful scenes and spots around there that I could show you too. I'll probably turn around in a few and actually run by the lake. Here's Naaman's Barbecue, one of my favorite lunch spots. Awesome chicken sandwich. I'm personally not a really big barbecue guy. I try to stay away from pork. I'm not Muslim. Try to stay away from pork, you know. I got love for some Muslim friends. Here I'm pulling in front of the Hochatown Distilling. the tasting room, little bar, Mountain Fork Brewery here. Big ol' so this place is actually on the market for sale right now. This lodge. Oh, I want to say it's in the low 2 millions. Low 2 millions. I can't remember how many rooms, but sleeps 48 folks. I mean, must be every bit of a dozen units. Like efficiency units, if you will. I'll run a little bit further north. Got this maze, which is, I think, one of the top 20 things to do. I'll make a list for you. Cool little new commercial establishment that is finally looking about finished as far as the exterior. Cabin Daddy Backwoods Emporium. Well, anyways, this maze is, I would say, is probably one of the attractions I would put in the top 20. If you caught me on the right day, I might say top 10. I think lake stuff, fishing, boating, jet skiing is probably worthy of being in the top 5. Relaxing, hanging at your cabin, enjoying your friends and family has got to be in the top 5. Cooking, grilling, all of that sort of thing, just hanging around your cabin. So those are the top couple activities, right? Perhaps driving around, sightseeing, trail hiking. I might lump that stuff together. Forgive me, I'm just making sure we're good here. Pulling through an area I probably shouldn't be pulling through for these food trucks. Whoops. So top five things. You know, in the top 5, I might say that there's a small handful of restaurants that are, if budget permits, time permits, would say, hey, check these few restaurants out. A Bendigo's definitely one. Pressa Italian food, definitely one. And I'm a real critic when it comes to food. So you do not see me eating fried stuff, processed stuff, you know. I'm not all jacked up on testosterone and steroids and stuff like that. Might not look like I'm in the gym all day, every day, because I'm not. I'm actually working, living a life and stuff, and not making fun of anyone that's in the gym all day, every day. There was a time where I was in the gym a lot, but all of that to say, I'm kind of just being smart, and I'm sorry, but processed foods, man, this processed food stuff is killing us. Killing us. And that's why when I see all these sugar joints pop up here, I'm not even gonna name them, because I don't want them to think I'm singling them out or talking or anything like that. But man, we just do not need more sugar in our diets, y'all. Like, what? How many? Do we really need to see more than half of the population like literally be diagnosed as full-blown diabetics? Like, dude, enough with the sugar and processed stuff. Enough. You bring your kids out to a rural, beautiful state park area, and you got to take them by the sugar joint, give them 1,000 grams of sugar. No, come on. I know y'all love your kids. I don't have any kids. I know you love your kids. Quit feeding them that, man. Quit feeding them that. We're all too soft and too big and too unhealthy these days, y'all. So I'll put a button in that. Run by a Bendigo's, get your kids and family some really good healthy food. There's a good handful of other places you can get some good healthy food, right? Papa's Tacos and stuff, right? Just chill out with the sugar, y'all. Chill out with the sugar. El Frio Express used to be a management company there. I had this property right here on the corner of Highway 259 and Carson Creek listed back, oh geez, it's probably been 2-3 years ago. I had it listed for sale. Never actually sold it. I did get it under contract, meaning I found a buyer, helped the buyer and seller negotiate terms. We were under contract, and oh, come to find out, one of the local individuals that had previously owned it, who had since sold it to the then seller, had some liens and or past judgments on the property that they didn't settle. They then sold the property to someone else that was my then seller. It was a cash deal when that owner bought it, my then seller, cash deal. They didn't do the proper title work and title research because, oh, how convenient, I found a property that's off market, individual wants to sell it to me off market. How gracious of them, they're giving me a good deal. Oh, I didn't really get good title. Whoops. I was not involved in that transaction that transpired in a bad title, if you will. And that's the way my memory recalls it in terms of a bad title. For sure, there was some judgments left on the property that the prior owner had. And you would think that since the owner that had the judgments was gone, no longer technically the owner, you would think that those judgments should have been cleared and that the system should have been able to forgive the new owner that really did not know about those judgments. You would think that the system should be efficient enough or organized enough to supersede or go around the new owner and just go back to get the judgment from the previous owner who had the judgment. You would think there would be a better solution than hamper the saleability of someone that really was not deserving of having the judgment on the property. Now, that might not make sense to some folks. Again, kind of more industry jargon that I really try to stay away from, but just shooting the stuff with y'all, sharing with y'all a little bit about what my story up here and what I've been up to up here. And so I'm not the most selling realtor up here. I am in the top, I'd say probably the top quarter of productive agents up here, the top quarter of active agents up here, the top 25%. I'm content with that. Live a good life. Live a content life. Very good life. Enjoy it. Enjoy it up here so much. But it's more than the money, like I said, that brought me up here. And so enjoy being able to roll down and check the lake and be on the lake and do the outdoor stuff and have a property that's more remote at the end of a private road. Pretty quiet, all of that. But where was I going with that? To say I enjoyed up here. I'm not the most selling realtor, but what I will say is because I'm not the most selling realtor, I probably have some time for your phone call. So, holler at me. I probably sell on average at least one of these cabins a month, which might not sound like a ton, but it is work. It is constant calls and emails and checking on this and running errands here, this, that, and the other. And here we are approaching the edge of Broken Bow Lake. Just like that. Beautiful, beautiful lake. Can't tell if you can really, yeah, you can kind of see it. So, here's some beautiful areas that frankly come Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July. It is just packed. Like a case of sardines around here. Got some geese running around, honk. Got a buddy that rents jet skis down here. Looking forward to jet ski and boating out here very, very soon. Again, here it is about 9:40 a.m. The temperature is like 73 degrees, at least according to my thing. Well, just dropped a tiny little drop of my espresso in this super clean Cadillac. So, We're gonna run back. Wow, hard to believe I've been recording for over 50 minutes here, and so I'll try to round this up here in the next few minutes. Let's say in the next 5 minutes I'll sign off and catch y'all again here soon. So I'm gonna think about what else I want to share with y'all. Again, our goal in this channel is to not just be entertaining, make this channel as entertaining while being as informative as possible about what all is going up here. What I intend to do here before long is share with y'all more and more about what's actually going on in the market, what a serious buyer ought to know about the market up here, what a serious future cabin seller might ought to know. Maybe we touch on that real quick. So I bet that if you were to call any other agent up here, 80% of the agents up here either do not know or are not willing to tell you that the majority of the cabin listings up here are not selling. So that's a fact that, again, you can take to the bank, and it's easy to gloss over that fact when you're a salesperson living on commission selling these properties. And so frankly, that's oftentimes the first place that I begin in talking to a seller or talking to a buyer. You know, a lot of agents would not probably start there when talking to a seller or a buyer. Of course, that's going to bring up some concern for the buyer. Oh, what happens if, a year later I buy this place and I need to sell it? Well, my answer is make sure that you're not in a position as best as you can to have to sell the place in a year. Make sure that your mentality and your intent on this property is not for a quick flip because you heard that folks bought up here in 2021 and a year later sold for $100,000 more. Make sure that's not your expectation if you're a buyer. If you're a seller, make sure and understand that as your agent and your realtor, you should expect us to market your property. I'm not going to pay $1 million to market your property on milk cartons in New York City. I'm not going to pay an airplane to drag a banner over California to market your property here in Broken Bow. There's a nature of what is realistic and what is effective to actually get property sold up here. And what I'll tell you is that 90% of the time or more, a serious buyer is shopping on Realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, or any other of the broker websites that are open, third-party consumer broker sites available to anyone. For example, I'm with Real Broker at this time. I've not even looked. I've not even looked at what Real's broker-facing site is, but I just know that pretty much all of these brokers have their Remax.com, KellerWilliams.com, Coldwell, but that's really not the most common place for a buyer to start their search. A lot of the times these buyers will kind of play around with different sites to see different filter options, different functionalities, this, that, and the other. A lot of agents will kind of try to push these buyers to their sites and stuff like that. The reality is, vast majority of serious buyers are on Realtor.com, Zillow, and I should probably stop right there. That's really where the majority of these buyers are, in addition to working with a real estate agent. So, all of that said, assuming the property is in adequate condition, good condition, showable, good photos, good description, accurate specifications, accurate specs, etc., the majority of buyers are gonna see your property there. And then, with that being said, they understand that at this time in 2026, for the most part, now there are caveats and exceptions, for the most part, on average, if we're talking about an average cabin, which is frankly, again, with respect, an average built cabin, not top notch, an average location cabin, not the most superb location, meaning either by proximity of this, that, or the other, best lot, best view. If it's an average cabin and it's average priced, most buyers are looking for a deal. And that really shouldn't surprise you. So a lot of folks, I think, are kind of wondering what's going on with their listing, why their cabin's not selling, and they're looking at this appraisal that they got on the property a year and a half ago, and I know my property's appraised for $850,000. We're listed at $725 right now, and I got a showing 60 days ago, and it's just not sold. Like, no offers, no showings in the past 60 days. What gives? It's the price that's got to give, unless you insist on being the highest bidder of your own property, and you place a value on your property that is higher than what any other buyer in today's market is willing to place on your property. Your property is going to sit. And so I guess I say that to say, with respect, of course there's marketing and advertising and positioning and an agent following up with leads and doing whatever they can possibly do within reason to get your property sold. The vast majority of the time, though, what's going to influence your saleability more than anything is price. Take that to the bank. So, if you're willing to price your property realistically, give me a call. I'd love to work for you. Would love to work for you, help you get the most amount. I'm not expecting you give the property away. I'm not expecting you to take a loss. You know, oftentimes, frankly, there are situations where folks had bought a cabin back 1, 2, 3 years ago, and albeit I think they would acknowledge and probably recall that as best as I could, if I was the one that represented them when they bought, they probably remember me saying, hey, you know, be prepared for the long haul. Be prepared to keep this property 5 or 10 years. This is, although, and I'm going back in time to maybe my conversations with clients 2-3 years ago when they bought. Let's say we were in 2022, 2023. Hey, Mr. Buyer, prices have surged over the past 2 years. We might not be able to count on that over that same level of appreciation over the next couple years. Let's make sure you're not looking at this as a quick flip. No, I'm in it for the long haul. Okay, let's make sure your cash reserves are adequate and padded, and your rainy day fund padded and stuff, so that when almost inevitably you have a little bit of a down month. Now, mind you, a lot of folks wonder, like, when are the down times? There are so many variables that go into these cabins, as far as like rentability and the hot seasons and the hot times and stuff like that. We'll maybe be able to get into that more here before long, but all of that to say, if I was put on the spot right now and I had a potential client asking me, like, what are the hot times? What can I expect? And let's say it was kind of TBD, to be determined on like what size cabin or how many bedrooms, this, that, and the other. Of course, all of that does kind of affect the target guest audience and how the rentability goes, this, that, and the other. Is it more of like a weekend property, or is it really just an all year round property, or is it really more of kind of a seasonal property for guests and stuff like that? All of that to say, what I feel is 60% of the guests and the traffic on these vacation rentals are in spring and summer. 40% fall and winter. And how I've come up with that is basically just years now, the past few years of looking at these cabin financials, and obviously years of living up here and being very in tune with the market, and just kind of feeling slightly more traffic, slightly more in the spring and summer on average than the fall and winter. So obviously here in the West, in America, we have these holidays like every month, every few weeks or so, there's some sort of holiday. We find any reason to make a holiday over anything now, for President's Day and Girlfriend's Day and Baby Mama's Day and Take Out the Trash Day and Happy Halloween and Christmas and New Year's and Valentine's Day and all of these holidays, and pretty much any one of those holidays is a reason that folks find to come up and hang out in Broken Bow, which is awesome. I think we all, I say we all, a lot of us appreciate that and respect that. And I think that there is a segment of folks that, again, are the humble folks, the original Broken Bow folks that are from here, feel like they're more from here and have more of a right to feel this, that, and the other. Some of them feel impacted by the traffic and by the prices, and all of this traffic and all the Hochatown stuff has driven the prices up and made it unrealistic for me and my family to buy up here. And there is a little bit of a degree of that, and I feel for folks that feel that way. I do see that. At the same time, you cannot debate at all that this traffic and all of these guests and vacationers and stuff really have brought a lot to this county, invested a lot up here, and spend a lot of money up here with a lot of the local folks. And prior to the past 5-10 years, I mean, this was a place that a lot of folks could not make a good living in, and it is challenging for a lot of folks still. And I'll acknowledge that I see that. It is still, by and large, outside of the cabin owners here, it is somewhat an impoverished county and somewhat of a little bit of a rough county. And more on that later. I'm not trying to air anything out or talk negative. I think obviously you probably feel where I'm coming from there, just frankly sharing what is. Not many people would disagree with that in being a humble rural county, a lot of folks come up here and vacation and visit and see the beauty and magnificence of some of these luxury grand cabins and stuff, and ride right by and right through a lot of these very, very humble folks and don't see it, and kind of are just here for a couple days and gone. And they couldn't even imagine. They just really couldn't even imagine. And so all of that to say, I do think that by and large, the development up here over the past 10 years has been a really good thing for more people than not. And I think it's brought a lot of, I know it's brought a lot of tax base and a lot of jobs. I mean, holy moly, how many cleaners this area employs, how many handymen and landscapers and construction folks and plumbers and electricians and HVAC folks and every trade that's needed in building a property, although now there's not so much building for servicing. Servicing and maintenance is needed on these cabins and properties now. So here we are driving around the Broken Bow Dam. Beautiful, beautiful sight. If I was to have just taken a right there at that little crow's foot, I could go down and visit the Mountain Fork River, where a lot of folks go trout fishing. And if I had a camera pointing this way, just a beautiful doggone view. One of my favorite smaller subdivisions. There's really not often a lot on the market for sale in this little subdivision called Cordillera, E-R-A, Cordillera. Beautiful, steep lots, wild, winding terrain, small subdivision, if you will. Not one of these cabin subdivisions that has 500 cabins or 1,000 cabins. There are a few of those subdivisions that I really do like, but this is a smaller development called Cordillera here that's got cabins that start with 700,000-800,000 and go up to anywhere around 2 million. Some of them have some incredible views, and if not a view, just a real sense of privacy and seclusion, and I'm out here in the woods. So this is the lower Mountain Fork River as well, that comes through here, this little point. A lot of folks come trout fishing here. There's some little pontoons and kayaks and canoes that you could rent and float the river. Awesome stuff to do. I would say that's in the top 5 things to do, assuming we're not talking winter activities. So again, to put me on the spot, some of the top 5 things to do, assuming we're not talking winter, would be river, lake activities. We'll lump that stuff up into one. Some of the awesome restaurants, say hiking and hiking trails, and maybe we'd say ATV, UTV trails, which, by the way, a lot of folks, I think, that really hadn't been up here a lot almost wonder or think that there's a lot of these ATV and UTV trails up here that are extensive, and not really so much, y'all. Not so much. Let's ask them if they caught anything. Y'all catch any gully whoppers? No gully whoppers? Ah, good luck. No gully whoppers. Man, what a beautiful view. Not really a ton of extensive and elaborate, and really, compared to Mena, Arkansas, if you've been to Mena, Arkansas, you kind of know what I'm talking about, or the areas around Mena that have these just, I mean, you could run ATVs and UTVs for days and days and days practically, and really not retrack the same trail. Versus up here, there might be a good half a day worth of stuff to go visit on ATV and UTV. So worth checking out if you've not done it before and budget permits. So I'd put that in the top 5. Fishing, I would say, again, if honestly I understand that boat, renting a boat for a half a day is super doggone expensive. I mean, not as expensive as owning the boat, but holy moly, I think some folks come up here and they're like, holy moly, I'm not spending $600 for half a day. I understand. So all of that to say, I think that's about what you'd spend for half a day on a boat, versus a jet ski. You might spend 50 to 100 bucks, 50 to 80 bucks an hour per Sea-Doo and per jet ski. And sounds expensive, but at the same time, if you were to really understand the profit that these folks are making, they're not making a super major killing. It's a seasonal business. They're working hard to earn your money, and it's obviously a lot more expensive, and a lot more goes into maintaining and insuring and storing and keeping a boat and Sea-Doo than what you'd imagine if you've never owned one. So if that's not you and you don't intend on buying or owning your own jet ski or boat, rent from some of these folks. There's folks all over that own and rent these boats and jet skis and stuff. So where I was going with that was to say that you do not need a boat or a vessel to fish up here. There's plenty of places you can stand on the shore, sit on the bank, over a little bridge or something at either the river or which, by the way, this is where I looped back around, and this is one of the places where there's some cool trails and access to the lower Mountain Fork River. So I think so far I've said hanging out at the cabin with your family, cooking, or really not doing nothing, that's a top activity I would recommend. Hiking, fishing, ATV stuff, boating, Sea-Doo stuff, lake stuff. That's 5 right there. Really good. A small handful of restaurants to go dine with and enjoy your family, or even by your lonesome. So that's probably my top 5 activities. And then, of course, if we want to get super adventurous, I might add on zip lining, the maze. So y'all, I'm not saying this is this is not Dallas. This is not Dallas. There's obviously a handful of other things. I would say for kids, of course, as far as kids, there's of course the go-kart racing, Hochatown Petting Zoo, if you will. There's this little place where called the Beaver's Bend Mining, I think, where frankly they ship in mass dirt that's kind of got these little like fossils and trinkets and stuff like that, and surely no real gold in there. Not knocking them, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure they're buying dirt and bringing it in, and it's kind of like an amusement thing for kids up here. Hey, if I had a 3 to 5 year old, would probably be fun. If you're a lady, there's of course Girls Gone Wine, That's a big attraction for the ladies, it seems, as well as places like Janet's Treasure Chest and 259 Gallery at Art Gallery. And this weekend, for example, our video won't be up by this weekend. Some folks walking up from the river access fishing. You know, this video is not going to be up by this weekend, but there's a hot rod show, classic car and hot rod show going on this weekend. I want to say there's a couple of them periodically throughout the year. I want to say this one's called like Kayamichi Hot Rods and Classic Car Show. I have two pretty cool old school rigs I'm working on, and oh, I just wish one of them was ready, but it's a process working on these old rigs. Got a 1967 Chevrolet C10 short bed, original short bed, with a small block V8 283 cubic inch motor. Got it running, drove it home. On the way home, it stalled out on me a couple times. 3-speed on the tree, stalled out because I believe I'm getting some lifter failure. More on that later. I might do another channel for automotive stuff and recreational stuff and stuff. We're kind of still figuring that out. I may choose to put it on this channel. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Please, seriously, if you've stuck around this long, just as an example, if I was to begin working on my hot rods and showing my hot rod stuff, would y'all be interested in seeing some hot rod stuff or some recreational stuff up here, like fishing and hunting and all of that stuff? Or should I keep it strictly real estate? Please let me know. Seriously, let me know. Please, 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 please. Nonetheless, C10 short bed, love her to death. And then I got this 1967 Chevrolet, 1967, both are 67 Cadillac Coupe de Ville, which is, oh my gosh, just looking at her every day. She's got this like burgundy, kind of maroon-ish paint job over what used to be an original silver paint job. And yeah, Coupe de Ville, which is the big, long coupe, 2-door, but 2 rows of seats. So really cool rig there with the, oh, what has she got? The original 429 motor, which is 7 liters. 7 liters of displacement, 429 cubic inch, whereas the 283, I want to say is like a 4.6 liters, I think, is what a 283 cubic inches equates to. And so anyways, that 283 and that C10 that's giving me issues, I already have a pull-out motor, 454, which is 7.4 liters, 454 and a turbo 400 transmission, pulled out from an RV, ready to go in to the C10. Bought that on Facebook Marketplace. Pretty much bought all of these. Bought this Cadillac Escalade on Facebook Marketplace. Bought all my current rigs on Facebook Marketplace, and there are some deals out there on Facebook Marketplace, I'll tell you. You know, if you're not really the slightest mechanically inclined, I understand and acknowledge and respect some of the fear that some folks have of buying a used vehicle and feeling like, oh, I'm just so busy, I gotta get to work and I can't afford to have to work on my car and can't afford this and can't. Some of the fear around that, I think, is what drives folks to get these new vehicles. But man, just the statistics that we have now towards how much people are indebted and in debt around their homes and vehicles and credit card debt is just insane. And the stress that's got folks in is insane. And here we are passing in front of the Choctaw Casino and Resort, just to show y'all a little bit about what's going on here. I've about drained my GoPro battery, and so again, I've stayed past the time that I said I would, just again ranting. And first Starbucks, I guess it'll probably be the only Starbucks allowed up here in Hochatown. Ooh, they have some awesome cookies in there in this Mercantile. So this Mercantile is here in front of this gas station, and the Mercantile has, of course, almost imagine it like a miniature Buc-ee's, if you will. Everything from little souvenir trinkets to Snickers to Gatorades and waters and packs of gum and just anything and everything that typically a gas station would have, as well as little souvenirs, as well as they have a little market, like a bakery, if you will, where they do awesome little breakfast sandwiches, sausage, egg, and cheese breakfast sandwiches, brisket. I want to say it's like beef brisket, egg and cheese, breakfast burritos, really good stuff, which is my go-to as long as it's beef. And so awesome cookies and sandwiches, and the pizza's a little doughy. I'm not really for super doughy pizza. I really prefer more of a thin crust pizza. A lot of that super doughy pizza just doesn't set well with me. And so here we are headed back down south, past an old Hochatown wine company. And so here in a second is where I'll log off. Again, enjoyed shooting the breeze with y'all, giving y'all a little bit of an update about what's going on in Broken Bow. One of the major improvements that I think everyone is appreciating up here at this time is this new road, this new expanded and widened highway that will alleviate so much of this congestion and traffic. That'll be a great thing. And so appreciate y'all tuning in. I gotta save some more, or I gotta save some information and things to discuss on these next subsequent videos. So my Harley's in the shop right now. We'll be getting it back soon. More on that here later. We got some awesome motorcycle trips and rides scheduled throughout the summer I might put on this channel if y'all are interested. Got some awesome stuff with these hot rods we're working on. Awesome projects with my little ranch down in Idabel. A property I'm building up here that'll come to the market here shortly. Handful of listings we got coming soon. One of which a magnificent property, which is probably one of the largest cabins in Carter Mountain. One of my favorite subdivisions coming to the market, will be listed at $2.25 million. Just an extravagant, large, massive retreat designed to host basically every family member in your family tree.